Thanks for staying with us. There's still no word from the MK party on reports that the 17 South Africans that were sent to Russia. Now, reports suggesting that the men were sent by the party for bodyguard training, yet are now fighting in Ukraine. MK party leader, former President Jacob Zuma, has reportedly written to the Russian defense minister to move the men to a safer place. And the presidency also investigating after receiving some distress calls. With so many questions, should the party perhaps not set the record straight? Let's speak to Leeto Nthoba, political analyst and lecturer at Central University of Technology. A very good evening to you, Leeto, and thank you so much for your time. Firstly, what do you make of these reports?
It's very alarming to hear such things happening, but not surprising, especially with the unemployment rate in South Africa. Remember that targeting South Africans in particular, and not even just South Africans, but young people from sub-Saharan Africa to go to other countries with an advert of a job for one purpose, to be an au pair, to be a bodyguard, to be a teacher. And when landing in these foreign countries and then being used for other purposes that are more nefarious, drug dealers, prostitution and the likes. And so this is not surprising that the target then be South Africans. But I think optically for the MK, this is particularly worrying because all other implications of South Africans and sub-Saharan Africans being lured to other countries had never been politically linked before. It was probably a personal connection where you were applying for a job to go somewhere or better opportunities. But now it being linked to a political party doesn't look good, especially in the moment that the MK party is going through right now, right? Let's think about it in context. A week or two ago, former President Jacob Zuma had gone to Burkina Faso to try and meet with Ibrahim Traore. Now, even no matter what you think about it, that is a leader who's hyper-militaristic, but also one who has not been yielding to calls for a democratic election to happen in his country. And then, secondly, you hear there's Duduzile Sambuta is now in her case for following the July unrest in South Africa. And so optically, for a political party, this does not look good at all. But then lastly, just to make the last point, I think lastly, the other problem that we're seeing is how MK in and of itself is being painted in South Africa, and that painting of MK as being a political outsider that is striving for something outside of the normal channels of South African political office. I think they should get ahead of this and try to soften the blow of whatever is happening in this moment.
How do they get ahead of it? And two, how then do they begin to deal with all these questions that we are all asking about what could be going on here?
On a PR level, right? The horses are out of the barn already, if you think about it, a little proverbial barn, because there's already been links to the MK. And so they must now come out and say whether or not it is true that they sent people off for bodyguard training. Because, by the way, if you were also duped as a party to say we send people off to go train to be bodyguards, we were not going to send them to war, and thus them being put into this situation was also a dereliction of trust between us and whoever we sent them to in this foreign country to go be bodyguards. I think that would be something that helps and sort of alleviates the situation. But then secondly, they should be very direct and frank with the South African public, because South Africa is seemingly in a moment where even their relationship with political parties is fraught with the GNU and how it's been treating South Africans or not treating South Africans, and also how we are also faring globally as part of the campaigns that are being held by groups like Solidarity and the likes. And so it's going to be a very tight rope that they have to walk, but I think one very necessary to walk in order to clear your name, especially going forward as a political party.
So they haven't been speaking, and there are, of course, a lot of people, including ourselves, who are looking to speak to them to understand what's going on here. So if they are not speaking and doing what you're telling them to do, what are we to read into their silence?
Well, the silence, I think, is the deadliest part, right? Not saying anything, not even informally. So even if they don't come speak to the media, but informally, through other channels, say something, because the lack of saying something means there is some kind of credibility to the claims that these people have gone there on the order or on the dime of the MK. And so not speaking makes it even more suspicious, because if you speak and say, well, our knowledge only extends up until the bodyguard training, and so then you become agnostic to the fact that these people had to go and become criminals in the South African sense, because it is a crime to go and help a foreign army as a South African. And so if not, then it means that, or if the silence continues, it means that the plausible deniability window keeps shrinking by the day. And if it shrinks to a point where you can't get out of it, no matter whether you are innocent or not, you look guilty by association, and thus will be painted that way in South Africa. Remember, if anyone paints you as militant in the South African sphere, whether it be in the media or in the public opinion, it becomes very hard for you to shrug off that paint of militancy, even when people want to give you the benefit of the doubt. And I think it would be in their best interest to get ahead of this one.
Quickly, before I let you go, the presidency saying that it's also received the distress calls, and investigations now are underway in order to understand exactly what's going on here. So one would ask, if at all, this does turn out to be true, what impact does it have on the relationship between the two countries in your view?
The impact is large, not just on the two countries, but of the positionality of South Africa globally as it pertains to wars, especially ones that are very contentious and why they were started in the first place. Remember, South Africa prides itself with this non-aligned status of theirs. And so by thrusting ourselves, or looking as if we're thrusting our young people into these wars, it seems like now we are backing a certain horse to win in whatever battle there is. And by doing that, we become delegitimized in some of the positions we hold, like instance in the position of Israel and Palestine. And so by looking like we are entering this sort of battlefield, then we're starting to lose the credibility that South Africa has built up in the United Nations and in favor of other nations as well. It would be lost in one fell swoop by just 17 people going to the battlefront. It will look like South Africa now is not non-aligned in wars and not one proponent of ending wars globally and in Africa. And that is dangerous for our country.
Leeto, as always, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for talking to us. Leeto Nthoba, the political analyst and lecturer at the Central University of Technology.